evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Mad Mouth, and I am joined tonight by Rick Curti and Mel Farr. Rick, good evening, my friend.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
All right, and my star running back, Mel Farr Jr., wearing a very homecoming type of shirt. Get up and show everybody. Mel, let me see that thing. I'll be done. That's it. Mel has a little bit of lion stuff, or is there any roar in it? I don't know. We'll
it was the only thing that was clean. Don't read anything into it. It was the only thing that was clean.
Oh, I'm not reading into anything anymore. I'm past that point. So, all right. Well, let's get over some of the top headlines. Okay, beginning with the fallout of the Houston Texans firing of Bill O'Brien. Before O'Brien was fired, J.J. Watt argued with O'Brien. Then again, everybody does anyways. And now Romeo Crennel gets 12 games to audition for the job. So first of all, let's talk about the first and with Bill O'Brien's firing, and then we'll talk about J.J. Watt, and then we'll proceed with the rest of it, because this is a four-part situation. Mel, you played the game. Bill O'Brien finally dug himself some quicksand, and he's getting out of it.
Yeah, he traded away a few players, traded for some players. And it's interesting, though. I mean, he's won, I think they've been there 6 years. I think they won four division titles, I believe, in the time that he was there.
Right.
But obviously, they got a lot of money invested in the quarterback there. And they just have, they're just not living. They haven't performed up to expectations. I mean, they got rid of a great wide receiver this past offseason, and they just, starting out 0-4, it kind of dug a hole for themselves. I guess there was some kind of argument between him and J.J. Watt this past week, and it seemed, I guess that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and that was it.
Don't argue with the guy that's getting the statue, and obviously J.J. Watt's getting the statue, and O'Brien got the boot. Okay, we're not talking Big Ten football with the old Paul Bunyan bucket and all these. We're just talking about the plain old boot. Rick, your thoughts?
Well, we were talking about Bill O'Brien just about a week ago about people that were on the hot seat. And, it's just crazy, I mean, the guy just gets rid of good players. Clowney wanted to leave. He got in a fight with J.J. Watt, who's probably one of the most respected, most beloved football players out there. Of course, he got rid of Hopkins for, pretty much for nothing, and made it very, very personal, attacking him. I'm surprised he kept Deshaun Watson, to be quite honest. It's just crazy. And and when they promoted him and made him like the GM and in charge of everything, it was like, why? Like, his playoff record stinks. He's a good coach, a regular season coach, but his playoff record is terrible. And it's just the ego. I guess, I know, under the Belichick tree, you just think that, hey, I'm great. And I think he was more like Bill Belichick of the Browns instead of Bill Belichick of the Patriots. I'll put it that way. But it reminds me a lot of Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, who was this offensive genius guru who wanted to show people, I'm so good and I'm so smart and I'm so wonderful. I can trade away all these great players for nothing. And, well, Chip Kelly's on his third team, and he's with UCLA, who's not doing so hot right now. So, that's what it reminds me of. It's just the ego of I'm so good, I can do whatever I want, and with less players, and well, that doesn't happen. So it's not a big surprise they got rid of him.
Yeah, Romeo Crennel takes over for Bill O'Brien. I guess it's a good opportunity with a 12-game window to audition for the job.
Yeah, I think so. He's got experience. He's there with the Browns and with the Chiefs. We'll see what happens with him. Another Bill Belichick person. We'll see what happens. Will they keep him? I don't know. He's a good coordinator, but as a head coach, I don't know. I'll be surprised if they keep him. So Marvin Lewis, hey, he's out there. Call him. Call Marvin Lewis, and he would be a great fit there. He'd be a great fit anywhere, but I think he'd be a really good fit there with Houston, especially with Watson there. I think him and together they could work really well together.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for coaches to have 10, 12 games to show what they can do. What do you have to lose, really?
Exactly. I mean, no one expects them. They fired their coach during the season. I don't think anybody expects the Texans to go to the Super Bowl. And if he could turn it around and if they can make the playoffs with him, hey, that's fantastic. But I doubt it. But show what you got, audition, and if they're not interested, maybe there's a team out there that say, maybe like the Lions, that say, hey, you know what, Cornell did really well with Texans. He's got experience. Let's give him a call, and maybe he could. We can interview for a job if they decide to move on without Patricia.
I don't know, Mel. What's your take on this whole thing?
Yeah, I don't, Romeo, I think is 72, 73 years old. I think they probably want a young hot shot. I think you want to probably try to get somebody who's more offensive minded, since you have a guy like Deshaun Watson who's very dynamic at that position. They also have to hire a GM as well, and I think that they're going to hire the GM first and let the GM kind of dictate who they're going to hire as a coach. So obviously, depending on who the GM is going to determine who the coach is going to be. And Roman Cornell, he's just standing in the gap right now. He's had 2 opportunities as an African American. It's highly unlikely, and at his age, and he's a defensive guy, it's highly unlikely that he would get that job.
If I were the Houston Texans, the first phone call I'd be making would be Eric Bieniemy of the Kansas City Chiefs. You've seen him firsthand in the playoffs. Eric Bieniemy, to me, is one of the bright offensive minds. If they don't get him, somebody's going to take him. I know one of the most interesting in-season firings that I remember in recent years, although it was toward the latter part of the year, was when Darryl Rogers got replaced by Wayne Fontes, and Wayne Fontes won the job. And there's a little trivia question for our Detroit listeners out there. Wayne Fontes was the last Lions coach to win a playoff game, and the last Lions quarterback to win a playoff game was Eric Kramer. So, sometimes these interim jobs become full-time jobs. Again, every situation is very different, but you never know. But I agree, Mel, that age does not work in Romeo Cornell's favor whatsoever, I think, right now. But you never know, though, if he has an incredible run over the last 12 games, if he wins 9 games, you'd almost have to at least give him a consideration. Not that he will, but guys like him could stabilize the ship. That might be overly optimistic, but I'm not holding my breath.
It's just like what Jerry Krause told Phil Jackson. He could go 82-0 and he wasn't coming back. Romeo Cornell can go 12-0, take the team to the win all the playoff games and win the Super Bowl. He's not going to be the head coach.
Well, I love your decisiveness on that. So you know what? When you give me a decisive answer, then you know what? We're moving on to the next topic, period. And a guy that made a decisive answer is Anthony Lynn, the Los Angeles Chargers head coach, when he announced that Justin Herbert is the starter for the rest of the year. Why wouldn't he be after his team lost 38-31? But Justin Herbert's been looking awfully good since he took over for Tyrod Taylor, and dispels the thought that a guy can lose his job because of an injury. But you had a young kid anyhow that you drafted 6th overall. So with that said, Rick, I'll let you lead off with this one. But I don't think there's any question that Anthony Lynn made the best decision. But what do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's your top quarterback of the franchise, hopefully for the next 12, 13, 14 years, just like Phillip Rivers was. So it's a good move. Tyrod Taylor, it's unfortunate what happened to him. I hope he's doing well, but, they have to go on with the future, and they have to see what this guy has. And he was a great quarterback at Oregon. So you got to try him out and see what happens. And he went 6th. So obviously he's your franchise guy. Just put him out there. What do you got to lose? I don't think anybody expects the Chargers to make the playoffs or go very far. So you got to see what he has. And if you got to put him out there, and I think he'll be fine. So it was the best move. It was the right move they had to do.
All right, Mel.
It's unfortunate for Tyrod to lose his starting job that way, but I've never been real high on it. He's been steady. He's a known commodity. I think everybody knows around the league what you get with Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, you got the new shiny toy that you want to play with, and the opportunities that he's looked very good. It'd be very difficult to go back to Tyrod with the way that he's performed. And I think he obviously gives them the best chance to win now. And he's obviously also going to, he's their quarterback of the future and he's the face of the franchise. So with the way that he's played, you had to put him out there.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, to lose 38-31 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa isn't the worst thing in the world. He put 31 spot, and he didn't look that badly when they played over at SoFi Stadium out in L.A. So there's no question. Sometimes Oregon quarterbacks are hit and miss. You know, Kelly Smith and Joey Harrington certainly didn't work out well, but Justin Herbert, boy, he looks pretty good. So at least the early returns are pretty well. Let's go over to the colleges for a moment. This one's a really disturbing thing. But I'm going to bring it up anyhow. Kansas head coach Les Miles tests positive for COVID-19, and the guy's 66 years old. You know, the Kansas Jayhawks obviously known for their basketball, and Les Miles being at that age in his 60s where he gets it. So what are your thoughts about Les Miles testing positive for COVID-19?
It's only a matter of time. He's around a lot of players, a lot of you don't know what these guys are doing once they leave the building. It's just a matter of time before one of these guys – before somebody in his age group catches it. It's unfortunate. Obviously, whatever they've been doing as far as how they've been trying to control or contain the virus is not working. You see some other universities are doing a lot better, and they have coaches that are, in that same age bracket as well. When you look at Alabama and schools like that. But it's unfortunate. I hate it for him, for Les Miles. Hopefully, he will recover and be fine and won't have any lingering effects from it.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I pray for Les Miles to make a speedy recovery. He's a great coach. He's really done a good job there in Kansas, which is primarily a basketball school. They've been awful for quite some time, and this thing is it doesn't care. It just doesn't care. I mean, look at the president; he got it too. And, he's at an advanced age as well. So, it's just hopefully it makes a speedy recovery. But, having football this season, I've been saying this, it's just like Russian roulette. You're around so many players, and you're around staff. You're around, medical team. You're around assistant coaches. Those locker rooms are, a lot of people are in there. It's cramped quarters. I'm just shocked that more people have not tested positive for COVID-19. So I pray for Les Miles and for everyone out there who's affected by this, and hopefully makes a speedy recovery.
Yeah, I think Les Miles is a good hire for the University of Kansas. Like you said, Rick, they're known for being a basketball program. But, I've actually toured that campus over in Lawrence. It's a beautiful campus. It really is. And I actually walked in the football stadium and was able to walk around when nobody was looking and toured it. But it seemed like a really, really nice place. And it'd be good to see the Jayhawks program actually do pretty well. And I think Les Miles is the right guy to do it. But first of all and foremost, recovery is at hand. And I wish Les nothing but the best of health and quick recovery over COVID-19, which rears its ugly head in a lot of ways. One guy that'll be playing ball, but not because of the COVID-19 situation, there will be Joe Flacco sighting. He'll be the starter. Sam Darnold will be sitting due to a shoulder injury versus the Arizona Cardinals. Did anybody know that Joe Flacco is still gainfully employed?
I had no idea. I was like, Joe Flacco? Did he just sign him? No, they signed him a while ago. I'm like, I thought he retired. So that was news to me for Flacco with the Jets. And, I've never been really big high on Darnold, but, he's hurt. And you got a backup in Joe Flacco, who literally I really thought he was done. So, we'll see what he does. Like I said, I don't really have any high expectations for the Jets. I've been saying this, that Gase is going to be gone at the end of the season. He's a joke. He's a terrible head coach. You got Flacco there. I mean, he's just not that player like he once was. So we'll see what happens with him, but I don't have any high expectations for the Jets.
You got the big contract with the Ravens, okay? And then once you got the big contract, didn't do anything, Mel. So what are your thoughts about Joe Flacco?
This is his first year in New York, or is his second year in New York? I know he spent a year.
It was his first.
Denver, right?
It was in Denver prior to this.
Yeah, I remember them talking about, because he started camp on some list or something like that because of injury or something that he was recovering from, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And then I happened to watch a little bit of the game and saw when Darnold got hurt during the game and Flacco came in. And I was really surprised that Darnold came back especially the way that he landed on that shoulder. And I've had 2 shoulder operations, and I know how those shoulders can hurt. And
Right.
I was really surprised that he was able to come back in there and play. And then obviously, now he's unavailable for the game. But again, none of us are expecting much from the Jets. We're really just waiting to see, when Adam Gase gets fired here. I mean, they're 0-4 right now. We'll see what Joe can do for him. Maybe he'll provide a spark for the team, and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Flacco is Joe Flacco. I mean, right now you're right. Adam Gase is not a matter of if, it's really a matter of when with him anyhow. Let's talk about the NFL. They're discussing using win percentages to determine playoff pictures. Well, let's clarify the fact that now the Titans are up to 23 positive tests since September the 24th. The Titans-Bills game has now been moved to Tuesday, so they keep moving around. So at some point or another, I think MLB was considering doing this too, but it never got to that point. But now we're talking about the NFL discussing percentages because there may not be an even number of games when it's all said and done. So, all right, Mel, you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, I know they rescheduled that one game that was canceled last week. They rescheduled it for later on in the year. But with the Titans and what they're doing right now, with the number of people that they've had positive, it makes it very, very difficult for them to have a complete schedule this year. And, you don't have, with football, you can't play, every 3 days or, you can't squeeze games in like that. I mean, they're going to, some teams are play on a Sunday and then they come in and have to play on a Thursday, but then they get that whole week off and get to play again on a Sunday again.
Right.
A lot of teams don't like the Thursday night games because there's not that much rest in between, but you just can't play. It's very difficult to play three games in 10 days for football. And that's the only way you'd be able to make up some of these lost games is if you were to be able to play games like in 3 games in 10 days or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world that's something that they will probably have to look into. Hopefully, it won't come to that, but at least they have that. They're thinking about that and they have that option available to them in the event that something like that were to happen, so that they can seed the playoff teams.
Yeah, the only thing you can do is if you have to back up the playoff games a little bit, a week out or so, that might be the only thing. Well, obviously, fewer teams as they get knocked out. So other than that, you're right. You can't. It's not like baseball where you have double headers or anything where you pile games on top of games. Football being the high, heavy, violent contact sport being what it is, you have to space them out because the body takes so long to recover. So, Rick, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very tricky. Like you said, it's not like baseball where they're going to have double headers and they can push games back. I guess the good thing for the NFL is that it's a very short season, but it's a mess with what's happening with Tennessee. And, my thoughts and prayers are for them. And it's like I said, this NFL season was going to be very tricky. I didn't know if they were going to have one, or if they did have one, it'd be like a 10-game season because of these outbreaks. So it's just going to be very, very hard. And just to move them around, I can't see them wanting a game like on a Monday or maybe a Wednesday. And they don't like the Thursday night football games. So it's just very, very difficult how they're going to do this. And I mean, look at the whole, that wonderful division with the Cowboys and the Redskins where everyone's under 500. I mean, it's a terrible division right there. And so, I mean, it would be kind of hard. Can you imagine if one of those teams had an outbreak to determine how they're going to do winning percentage? So you might have a team that goes 6-10 and might make the playoffs. So it's just very tricky.
Well, things are so bad in that division. Washington had to resort to benching Dwayne Haskins, who got demoted to number 3. And you got Kyle Allen, who's a starting quarterback, with Alex Smith being number 2. So, I guess right now in that division, call it the dysfunctional division, if you want to call it, Mel, because the NFC East looks like the NFC least.
Yeah, they're struggling right now. Philadelphia, I think, is leading that division at 1-2-1. Yeah, you just talked about that they benched the guy at Washington.
Dwayne Haskins,
and they're going to start the guy that came over there from Carolina, Kyle Allen, who obviously Ron Rivera has a little bit of history with, and he has a little familiarity with, and probably has a lot more confidence in him than he did in Dwayne Haskins. So, it's going to be interesting to see. The Cowboys, they're reeling. I mean, it's not pretty. It's really not pretty. I mean, they gave up over 300 yards on the ground last week. That's and nobody rushed for over 100, but they had 300 yards rushing. Cleveland did, and that's not good, because the one thing in football that you need to be able to do is you need to be physical at the line of scrimmage, physical at the point of attack, and you need to be able to stop the run. And if you can't stop the run, that means that the whole playbook is available to that other team. They can do anything and everything, as you see what they did with that with the reverse that Odell took to the house. It's just it was an embarrassing. It was embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys scored a lot of points. The problem is they can't stop anybody. So we're going to talk a little bit of baseball. Then we're going to do something a little different tonight. Okay, I'm not going to go every single game. I'll only highlight a bunch of them. Well, first of all, the Miami Marlins season came to an end. They lost to the Atlanta Braves 3-0. The last two games, they were shut out by a combined score of 9-0, 7-0 today, 2-0 yesterday. And then, of course, they lost, I believe it was like 9-5. But the Marlins had one heck of a run, didn't they, Rick?
They absolutely did. I didn't have them winning the playoffs this series, but they sure did, because we talk about Tennessee with their outbreaks. I mean, Miami was the first to have their big outbreaks, and to make it even more embarrassing, they were all partying. So that was like a double sword right there, a double edge right there for them, and they could have fallen apart. And Don Manley put them together. They went on a great run. They made the playoffs. And I've been saying that Don Manley is the manager of the year. And so he did a great job. So it would have been great to see them go all the way. But unfortunately they didn't. But the future looks very, very bright for the Marlins, because they're such a young team, and they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, Don Mattingly made a reference, Mel, that you can appreciate probably as well as anybody. He said what the Atlanta Braves are to the Miami Marlins were what the Detroit Pistons were to the Chicago Bulls. They're the team that you have to get past in order to get to the next level. And we know full well that during the Bad Boys era, that's exactly what Chicago had to do before Jordan took it to the next level. So, the Marlins didn't make quite a run, but I don't think you're bothered about it, because the team they lost to happens to reside in your area code, isn't it, Mel?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Miami's, they can really compare themselves to the Bulls. I don't think they're quite there yet. Heck, I mean, they lost 100 games last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they lost 105. But the point is that this team here, though, in terms of Atlanta being the team that they have, the benchmark for which they have to catch, Atlanta's the team that they have to pass.
Atlanta's on the upswing. So I mean, they're going to have to continue to get better and better, because Atlanta's young and they're hungry, and they've been in the mix for the last couple of years. Miami, they nobody's even thought of them. They've been an afterthought. So they got a couple more years of getting into the playoffs and getting close, having some disappointments and whatnot. I'm looking forward to see who's going to win that game, win the game later on with the Dodgers. The Dodgers are up 2-0. I'd like to see, they've been knocking on the door. I think they thought they should have won it a couple of years ago when they had that scandal regarding sign stealing or whatever it was that they were doing. So the Dodgers have been knocking at the door. They've been close. I'd like to see the Dodgers win it this year.
Well, that's a great transition, Mel. Thank you very much, because a team that was involved in the sign stealing scandal just knocked the Oakland A's right out. And that's the Houston Astros 11, the Oakland A's 6. The Astros won that series 3-1. So very good segue, Mr. Farr. I appreciate the handoff. You actually did a double reverse and handed me the football. Thank you, Mel. I appreciate it. So with that said, a team that was 29-31 knocked out the Oakland A's, although I think the Astros parade's going to end with either the Rays or the Yankees anyhow, although the Rays are looking awfully good. But let's give Houston their due, okay? They did knock out Oakland. So let's talk about the Astros for a moment, okay? Experience certainly got them. Dusty Baker's done a really, really good job out in Houston settling that ship. And you know what? I got to give the Astros credit this time. They had a bullseye in their chest, and they'll be in the Final Four. Anybody want to comment on that?
I'll go first. Like I said, you're not going to get any pat on the back from me from the Houston Astros, but I am rooting for Dusty Baker. He's a class act manager. That was probably the best acquisition they did, because they were so hated. So they had to get somebody that people respected, and it kind of like tempered the flames until the Astros opened their mouths and said, well, it wasn't really that bad. We would have won it anyway. Carlos Correa's been acting like how can I say this, a jerk about it and saying,
Right.
hey, I know everybody doesn't want us here. And it's like, well, we're here. And if you don't like it, too bad kind of attitude. So we'll see what happens. You know, the A's have, you know, they do so good in the regular season, but in the playoffs, you know, Moneyball can only take you so far. So, but I can say congratulations to the Astros. But most likely to me is congratulations to Dusty Baker, because he's done a heck of a job there. He really has.
Anything you want to add to that, Mel?
Yeah, I mean, I like Dusty, and I've liked him from when he used to play at the Dodgers way back in the day. That's how long I've been watching Dusty Baker. And, you know, he's been close. He's been close. And everywhere he's gone, his teams have been competitive. When he was with Washington, you know, team was competitive. And I think he left there and went to the Reds and got the Reds. The Reds were competitive again. And, you know, this unfortunate situation that happened down there in Houston got him another opportunity. You know, I'd love to see him win it, but not this year. We gotta let the Dodgers win one because they're due, and we'll, you know, maybe the Yankees, and then maybe Dusty can come in and win one. So hopefully he can hang around for a little while. He can win after the Dodgers win. I'll let him win one after the Dodgers win. But it's gonna be tough for Houston because, you know, they don't have their pitcher, right? There's Verlander's hurt. He's got to have Tommy John surgery. Big, you know, that's huge. I mean, he's a guy that they can count on a couple starts, and he's going to go deep in the rotation and or in the game, and they can count on him battling. So it's going to be a lot different for him.
Yeah, Dusty Baker's done a good job every stop. You know, remember he was with Washington Nationals, got released there before they won their title. It was with the Giants, took them to the World Series.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, his track record speaks for itself. I'm glad that he ended up getting a contract extension past this year. So, you know, he inherited a very difficult situation. I think he's done pretty well with it. So, all right, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the 2 football games from last week. We'll talk about 6 other ones, and then we'll wrap up the broadcast. All right, first of all, I think the best games that I noticed last week were the Cleveland Browns walking in to Jerry's World and beating the Dallas Cowboys 49-38. Baker Mayfield actually looked like a number 1 pick this time, and against the Cowboys, I don't know if that's saying much, but let's give the Brownies their due. They're 3-1 right now. So, you know, Mel, what's your take on the fact that Cleveland walked into Dallas and they ended up pulling out a win?
Yeah, that's. Well, I think I picked Cleveland to win. I believe you rolled the tape. I think I picked Cleveland to win, but the fashion in which they did it, running the ball the way that they ran the ball all over the Cowboys, that's embarrassing. But I expected Cleveland to win, and they came out on top. You know, Dallas is not a very good football team, and Jerry, he's trying his best to win another Super Bowl because everybody kind of discounts those Super Bowls that he won, saying that those were Jimmy's team, even when Jimmy got fired and Barry Switzer came in, that was still Jimmy's team. You know, still had Troy Aikman, all Jimmy's guys there. And he's doing everything in his power while he's on this earth to win another Super Bowl. And, you know, as much as I admire him as a businessman, I love to see him squirm this way and struggle this way because he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he probably is. He might very well be the smartest guy in the room, but he's, you know, he doesn't know the game of football as well as he thinks he knows it.
The curse of Jimmy Johnson lingers in Big D, and you're right. I've always said that Barry Switzer should be thankful that Jimmy Johnson gave him a piece of jewelry that he didn't deserve. Jimmy should have all 3, but for whatever it's worth, Jimmy Johnson's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
They could have had plenty. They could have had plenty if everybody could just put their egos to the side, just at the front door, or left them at home. But, you know, Jerry has a huge ego, obviously. Jimmy, you know, he has a big ego, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't coexist.
Well, Jimmy's got a bust in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Mel. I think that his ego is good enough, knowing that not only did he win a couple Super Bowls, but he won a national championship with the Miami Hurricanes as well. So I think Jimmy Johnson's done pretty well for himself, don't you?
Jerry's in the Hall of Fame too. Don't forget that.
Well, I'm not forgetting that. All I know is that Jimmy Johnson won at the collegiate level, and he also won in the pro level. So, I mean, but no, you're right. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, let's face it, he does have a lot of money, so who can – and I've actually met Jerry Jones before many years ago over at Sun Devil Stadium, And I had a pretty interesting conversation when, remember, Lamar Hunt wanted the Lions to lose that Thanksgiving game. And, and I asked Jerry about that in the locker room. He said, I'm not going to let Detroit lose that thing at all. Detroit and Dallas are the only two that wanted it, and they get to keep it. You know how much power Jerry has in that league. Yep. So the bottom line is there was a third game at night, so everybody was happy, and the two teams kept it. So Jerry knows how to go to bat when he needs to. All right, Rick, why don't you get in on this?
Yeah, it's embarrassing to lose to the Browns, even though they're 3-1. But I mean, it's so early in the season. The Browns have started out really good before and have fallen apart. I mean, the Browns to me are the Browns. I don't care. Vince Lombardi could, come back from the dead and coach them, and I don't know if there's any hope for them. So we'll see. But Stefanski right now, he's doing a good job right now.
Right.
But to me, it was not more the Browns winning. It was more how horrible and terrible the Cowboys are. Their defense is horrid, and they're in a horrible division. Jerry Jones, I'm not the biggest Cowboy fan. I love seeing him squirm too. He thinks he's so smart and thinks he's like the greatest. And we all know that Jimmy Johnson's the one. And it just bothers him that people are going to say, well, it's because of Jimmy Johnson that you won your Super Bowls, So he needs to step down. He's too much of a control freak. That's the problem. He's like with the vice president and the GM and the owner and stuff like that. And I know he's had his son operate the team, but he's still a control freak, and he just wants people to see that I'm the one who put this team together. I'm the one. And I mean, they've been mediocre for the last 20 years.
Right.
And that's the problem with him, is just that he needs to just step aside and just be an owner, put the money out, get the good players, and put a good product out there. And he just can't do it because his ego is so big that he just wants to prove to everybody that he's in the Hall of Fame, for Pete's sakes. He has nothing to prove, but the last 20 years, they have been a mediocre team, and this is probably one of the worst Cowboys teams I've seen. And, they got Mike McCarthy, a really good head coach, who's won a Super Bowl, but they're terrible right now. And now they got to figure out what they're going to do with Dak Prescott. Are they going to give him all that money? But to me, their defense is it's horrible.
Well, I mean, I will say Baker Mayfield won once again, Dak Prescott. But in the end, though, where I do disagree with you, though, Rick, is I think Stefanski is going to do a good job with Cleveland. He did a good job with the Minnesota Vikings, so I'll give Stefanski a puncher's chance. One more game to talk about. We'll get to a few other ones, all right? We have mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the Tampa Bay Bucks 38, the Chargers 31. Tom Brady did not look like Father Time caught up with him at all. He looked pretty impressive. So, Mel, give me some observations about Tom Brady beating the Chargers.
Well, I mean, you kind of expected it with Tom Brady, with the weapons that he has and the defense that they have there in Tampa Bay. You're kind of expecting them to win. It's just taking them a little time to get the offense real comfortable in that offense, and also get comfortable with the guys that he has around them as well, and knowing what their strengths and what they do well and what some of the guys don't do well as well. So, I think everybody's looking for big things from Tampa Bay this year. And obviously, playing against San Diego and having a rookie quarterback out there, put a lot of pressure on the Bucs, and they needed to win that football game because they do have the wily veteran, and they just had a rookie out there, and they should have come away with that victory, and they did.
Well, you're drinking the San Diego Kool-Aid, but I'll help you drink the Los Angeles Chargers Kool-Aid, okay, Mel?
I'm sorry.
Just kidding with you.
I'm not used to it either.
I'll throw another curveball at you later in the broadcast. Don't worry. We're all drinking that. And Rick Curti's got me talking about the Kool-Aid drink anyways, even though I drink 9 gallons of diet drinks all day with a cotton candy water here and there. So go figure. And hey, those are actually pretty good, by the way, at Walmart, I should point out. So, all right. So, I mean, what do you think, Rick? Did Father Time catch up with Tom Brady, or is he looking awfully good in Tampa?
You got to remember, Tom Brady's 43 years old, and he's still a quarterback. That's the amazing part about it. I mean, he could have a horrible season, and I'm like, he's 43 years old. Right. But he's Tom Brady. He's 43 years old, guys. He's still productive. He's still throwing touchdowns. The man looks better at 43 than he did at 23. I don't know what he's doing. I know he's on this crazy diet, and he doesn't eat processed meat and all this stuff, and he's like I think a vegan and all that. But man, he for 43 years old, he's an active quarterback. So when people say, "Oh, Tom Brady doesn't look as good," or he struggled that game, I think he kind of shut up a lot of people and say, "No, folks, I'm Tom Brady. I'm here. I'm the greatest quarterback that ever lived in NFL history. I'm 43 years old, and I can sling it out with 21-year-olds." So it's fantastic what he's doing, to be quite honest.
Well, he's done a good job shutting up Bruce Arians, and I don't think Arians making any crazy comments. Remember, Tom didn't have the benefit of a preseason, and now they're 3-1, so I think they'll get better. And now that we're talking about Tom Brady, guess what? We're going to talk about some football games tonight. And we'll lead off with the Thursday night football game. Mel, we can definitely appreciate this. Once upon a time, we had the NFC North division, as Chris Berman would say. I used to love it when the Lions would go to Tampa once a year and vice versa. I got to see my old buddies over at the Tampa Tribune in Detroit. And, of course, I went to USF, so I saw Lions games not only as a fan, but when I ended up covering the team regularly. So we'll talk about an NFC North division matchup, as Chris Berman would politely say it, between the Tampa Bay Bucks, you guessed it, at Soldier Field to take on the Chicago Bears. We're going to do some predictions of about six games, and then we'll wrap up the show. All right, so with that said, Mr. Farr, okay, the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Chicago Bears, who you got and how many you got and why?
Believe it or not, I'm going to take Chicago with their defense. I think their defense, especially with Khalil Mack, and I know they're going to try to do some things to get the ball out of Tom's hands quick because they're going to need to do that. But Nick Foles is going to get his first start, if I'm not mistaken. This is going to be his first start, right, or is this his second start?
Well, it's his second, but I believe it's his first at home, isn't it?
I'm not sure, but okay. So we know Nick Foles is going to be at the controls. So that gives them a chance to do some things offensively that I think that they would, that they like to do offensively. So, I'm looking forward to this game. Like you said, it's one of those old-fashioned NFC North matchups. I remember those games very, very well. A lot of those games, Tampa Bay wasn't a very good football team back then.
Oh, that's true.
But obviously now they're much improved. Tom Brady's there, but I still pick I pick Chicago to win this game. I don't know what the weather's like up there today in the Windy City, but I would say that they're probably, you're probably looking at 21-17.
All right, Rick.
I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bears, they look like a really good team. In the last 2 or 3 years, they have been a big disappointment. Trubisky, I saw him play in North Carolina. I was never that high on him. And when he and I couldn't even believe it that they traded up a spot to get Trubisky. And the 49ers totally faked them out. And that GM is on the hot seat right now for doing that. He was getting criticized for doing that, and now he's even bigger in the hot seat, especially when he passed up on Mahomes. He could have gotten Mahomes. So I have Tampa Bay. I'm not going to go against Tom Brady. Tom Brady, you could put him anywhere. I mean, he played in Massachusetts for 20 years, and so the cold weather don't bother him. And I'm just not really high on the Bears. To me, they're kind of a mess, and they got Foles now, and we'll see what Foles does. I like Foles, but I don't know. But I'm not going to go against Tom Brady.
Give me a score. Give me a rough idea.
I'll have it 28-21.
All right, and I'll go with Tampa as well, 24-17. I don't think that Nick Foles, to me, I'm not going to face anything he did in Jacksonville because everybody struggles there. But, again, I don't know whether you'll have a quarterback controversy by the end of the year, whether it'll be Trubisky over Foles, but right now Foles is in charge. But I'll go with the Buccaneers. I like what Tom Brady's doing. And you're right, he's acclimated himself to playing in cooler weather. Jacksonville against the Houston Texans, Romeo Crennel's first game. Does Romeo Crennel want to know, or the Jacksonville Jaguars going to get a win out in H-Town?
I think that Romeo Crennel is going to get a win because of the talent that he has on at the quarterback position, and probably get the guys that probably rally behind him this week here because they feel like they got a new lease on life because the big bad wolf is no longer there anymore, so they want to go out there and prove that that the ownership did the right thing in getting rid of the guy. So I think they'll go out there and they'll win for him, and I think they'll win handily, probably 31-14.
All right, Rick, give me a prediction.
Yeah, I have Houston winning. I totally agree with Mel. I think that they're relieved that Bill O'Brien's gone. I mean, he pretty much alienated everybody, and I think Romeo Cornell, they're going to rally with him, and they're going to say, let's do this for Romeo, and let's just no one expects us to do anything, so let's go out there and win. Jacksonville's just not a very good team. And I have Houston winning I would say 24. I have it 24-17. Houston is, if it wasn't for Watson, they wouldn't be that well. And they got Watt, but he's been injured with back injuries. But I think they're going to win this for Romeo.
Yeah, that makes it a unanimous here. I think 27-17 in favor of the Houston Texans. Romeo Cornell is 1-0. And I'll go back to Mel's analogy. The big bad wolf is gone. The only thing that O'Brien probably has going for him is probably going to be paid about a year or two just to stay the heck away. And he leaves Houston with a 52-48 mark. But what has happened over there to me is he's left. That franchise is a mess thanks to the moves that Bill O'Brien made. 4 more games to go. Denver Broncos, New England Patriots. Just found out this one was moved to Monday night. I got to tell you, it's an interesting matchup for me. These are the first 2 teams I actually saw in person that won Super Bowls. Denver beat Atlanta, and of course, New England beat Patriots, but now they're both playing. But the game's in New England. Who do you have, Mel?
Well, if Cam is playing, I'm going to take New England. If Cam is playing, now if Cam's not playing, I'm going to take Denver. So it all depends on who the quarterback is going to be. If Cam's going to be ready to play, because you saw what those guys did last week that were out there. It wasn't very pretty. If Cam had played last week, because Mahomes, for whatever reason, didn't really look engaged. He kind of didn't really look like he wanted to be out there for some reason. And I think if Cam had been there, had played, New England probably would have won that game. So it all depends on, it depends on if Cam's playing and who's going to win that game. If Cam plays, New England. If Cam doesn't play, then Denver.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I thought Stidham, from what I heard, didn't look bad, and Brian Hoyer showed that why he's exactly Brian Hoyer. All right, so yeah, I'll right now I'll give the benefit of the doubt right now to New England based on either Cam Newton or I think Jared Stidham could lead him to a win too. For some reason, they were really high on the kid, and he could get some invaluable experience. But I think if say Stidham does play, I think you're 21-17 in favor of the Patriots, one way or the other, regardless of the quarterback. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I have New England in this. I think without, with or without Cam Newton, they're going to win. Denver is just not a very good team.
Right.
And they have quarterback issues right there. And Belichick is Belichick. I think he's shown people that, he's still without Tom Brady, and they're still a good team. And if Cam's not playing, I like Stidham, and I think he has enough to beat Denver because Denver is just not a very, very good team. And I have it 17-10. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game if Stidham is the quarterback. But I have New England winning it with or without Cam Newton.
So we're unanimous somewhat unanimous on New England, depending on the Cam Newton factor. I think one of the best games of the week is going to be the Indianapolis Colts against the Cleveland Browns. I'll tell you what, Jonathan Taylor is looking awfully good with the Colts, and it looks like Phillip Rivers and T.Y. Hilton are a formidable duo as well. So Indianapolis, Cleveland. Rick, go ahead, lead off.
Well, Cleveland right now is doing really well. I think their confidence is up. They went to Jerry World and pretty much just had their way with them. But who hasn't had their way with the Cowboys? So, but right now, the 3-1, they're doing really well. I like Indianapolis, but I'm going to go with Cleveland on this one. I think Baker is on a roll right now. He just got to keep his ego in check. I remember the first time they went on a roll and they got all excited and everything like that, and then they went free falling. And you remember they're the Browns, so I do have Cleveland winning this. I have it like a 24. I think it'll be like 24-14, something like that. And I expect a big game from Baker Mayfield.
All right, Mel, study your notes. Tell me what you think.
I have Cleveland winning this game as well. And I think, we early in the year, if I'm not mistaken, Indianapolis started out the year with Jacksonville, right? And everybody
they lost.
Yeah, they ended up losing. So I'm going with Cleveland. That solidifies my pick here. I'm going with Cleveland to win this game. I like, their defense, and I think they can put some pressure on Phillip Rivers, get him back there, get him unsettled in back there, and put some pressure on him. And he'll throw. He's good for throwing a pick or two, and he'll throw a pick or two. And Cleveland will come out on top. They're gonna dominate the game on the ground, and they'll win this game. I'd say it's gonna be a low scoring affair. I'd say 17-10.
And I'll go 31-21 in favor of the Browns. I like the way the Browns look pretty balanced to me. So 2 more games to get to. The LA Chargers against the New Orleans Saints. Mel, as much as I know, I love that Lions shirt that you have on. Okay, the Lions gave up 35 unanswered points, which was really tough to watch. But then again, we've expected anything less. You had the Drew Brees, Matthew Stafford show that Drew Brees got the best out of, and of course Matt Patricia. To me, it just makes me gag. But I won't go any further than that for those of you that are eating dinner. But the LA Chargers and the New Orleans Saints. This looks like probably one of the better games of the week. All right, Mel, go ahead and lead off.
Well, again, you looked at that game last week. The Lions got out early because of a couple of turnovers, and all they had to do was hold on, and they just couldn't hold on. I mean, you gotta be able to run the football a little bit. You gotta be able to sustain some drives. Put some points on the board. You can't have 3 and outs and put the ball in Drew Brees' hands, because we know what he's capable of doing with the weapons that they have. They came out a little flat, it seemed, and then they woke up after being down by a couple scores, and then of course they do what they do. It's gonna again, you got the young quarterback starting here. I'm gonna go with New Orleans because I think they're trying to find their groove. They know they have a good football team. This is going to be Drew Brees' swan song this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And I think Michael Thomas didn't play last week, but I'm not sure if he's playing this week. But I'm thinking that he's going to play this week. So if he has his guy back, then I'm definitely looking for New Orleans to put up some points and win this football game. And I'm looking for them to win it probably 35-28.
Very good. I like that score. All right, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, the Lions are a mess. And Matt Patricia is obviously not the right guy. They never should have fired Jim Caldwell out there. He went 9-7, and Matt Patricia has been awful. And so he's another guy that I see them moving on, especially with new ownership now with the Lions. So I have New Orleans winning this game, and I have them winning like 38-21. I don't think it'll be that close. And Stafford, he's a great quarterback, but man, he's just been on a lousy team. He's had so many.
Feel bad for him.
I'm sorry, Stafford. Sorry. And he's just been. He's had a lot of bad luck, and he's had so many different coordinators here and there, and he's a really good quarterback. And it's unfortunate he's just with them. So, but I have the Saints winning this game pretty easily.
And I've got actually New Orleans 34-27. I'm right near neck of the woods, Mel. 34-27, that's for sure. So final game we're going to talk about. Now, the only question about that Chargers New Orleans game is because of Hurricane Delta. I don't know whether that game will be played in Indianapolis. If they are going to play the game outside of the Louisiana, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the folks in that region and hope that Hurricane Delta doesn't take that area out. But if there is a chance that game could be switched to Indianapolis as a neutral site game. Then again, there are no fans, so it doesn't make any difference as long as you play the football game. But first, more paramount, we pray for the fans and the residents in the area, and the game is secondary in my opinion, but could be played in Indianapolis. Final game we're going to talk about Las Vegas. And okay, Mel, if you want to mention Oakland, don't feel too bad. Everybody probably will. Okay, the Raiders, okay, against the Kansas City Chiefs. I have a feeling that Patrick Mahomes will be engaged in this one, okay, and it'll be at home. So, all right, Mel, lead it off.
Yeah, I like Chucky Gruden. I've always liked him when he was with Oakland. Didn't like him as much when he's with Tampa Bay because he kind of took over Tony Dungy's team.
Right.
I still like him, but who doesn't like the Raiders? Who grew up and didn't like the Raiders, as Chris Berman liked to say. So Kansas City, they're on a mission this year, and like I said, they didn't really see him engaged last week. At least Mahomes just seemed like he had something else on his mind, like he wanted to be somewhere else. And so I look for him to play better, and I think that Kansas City will win this game. Now Las Vegas is a good football club. John Gruden's done a good job with him, but Kansas City is a tough football team, and they'll win this game, and they'll probably put up they'll probably hang about 35 on Las Vegas, and Las Vegas will probably get about 21.
Yeah, so you see double digits. Yeah, I'd see 31-17 in favor of the Chiefs. Okay, Rick, wrap it up with your prediction, then we'll go ahead and head on out for the night.
Well, Patrick Mahomes, and not Pat Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes. So he's to me, he's the best quarterback. It's either him or Russell Wilson. You choose either one, but I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think they're going to have a big game. They're in Kansas City. The Raiders, I was saying that they're going to be, good because, or better because they're new location, new stadium. They don't have to worry about being in Oakland, but, it's just not going to be enough. I have the Chiefs winning 45-28.
Right.
I think they're going to – I think Patrick Mahomes will have a big game, and they're really going to dominate this game with the Raiders.
And this game, just so you know, folks, is going to be played out in Arrowhead Stadium, but it wouldn't matter where they're playing this game. I still see the Chiefs winning by that margin regardless of where they're at. So with that said, okay, Mel, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. Rick will do it, and I'll do it as well. Coming up after the Sports Exchange Night Fantasy Football with myself, Ryan Skolrud, Xavier McKnight joins us. So, part of our football doubleheader. Of course, we sprinkled a little baseball in here because of the playoffs. So, Mel, go ahead. I'll hand the ball off to you. Let people know how they get a hold of you.
Yeah, I can be reached on all the social media sites at Mel Farr Jr. That's Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at Mel Farr Jr. My email address is melfarjr@gmail.com. And then you can follow what we're doing in here in Atlanta and also in Michigan for the youth of those cities at melfar.org. Very
good. All right, Rick, go ahead.
You can contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. Our email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, and we're also on there at Charlotte Bats Baseball. We're also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. And you can find me on LinkedIn under Rick Curti, Curti, and you can contact me on any of those social media websites.
I should also point out Rick Curti does a really nice job helping us in social media to make sure that all of our content gets displayed to a lot of folks on social media. But that said, we always want to say thank you for your contributions there. As far as we're concerned, the Sports Exchange can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, where we get your podcasts. I'll say it again. Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, where you get your podcasts. As far as social media is concerned, you can reach us at Twitter at Tribune South. That's at Tribune South. Facebook and Instagram, South Florida Tribune Gets It Done. You'll also be able to find our broadcasts on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to South Florida Tribune. And the benefit for doing exactly that means you'll be able to see all the shows in the lineup, Sports Exchange, No Limits, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, The Real and the Rare, Fantasy Football, and, of course, the South Florida Tribune Podcast. So we're very, very versatile in that respect. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com. We have all of our contributing writers out there. We have our media distribution partners. We have a section for the Motor City Monitor where we do keep track of Detroit sports. It's certainly a place that I really feel very fond of and like to stay connected to home. And more importantly, the broadcasts are on there as well. So if you want to go ahead and tune in any of our broadcasts of the 6 shows, you can find them on the website. That website, again, is www.southfloridatribune.com. You can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com, and you can go ahead and connect with me on LinkedIn, Scott Morganroth. With that said, before we wrap it up, Rick, why don't you give the COVID message to everybody else, and then we'll call it a night.
Guys, out there right now, this thing is surging. The people were saying that, during the summer, this thing would slow down, and they said expect, to really hunker down during this time of the year because this thing is very aggressive during the cold. And people, just wash your hands, wear your masks, stop doing stupid things. People have politicized this thing like crazy, which is ridiculous. COVID don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, don't care. if you're rich, famous, poor, it don't care. It's just going to get you if you're not being careful. So please wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, and just use common sense.
Fair enough. Okay, I couldn't say any better myself. That's why I let Rick Curti do it for me. Meanwhile, on behalf of Mel Farr Jr., Rick Curti, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thanking you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Rick Curti will have until Monday night to get a little bit of rest because he does 108 Stitches baseball talk, and by then we should have the Final Four in place. So meanwhile, guys, job well done. Thursday night football features the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Soldier Field to take on the Chicago Bears. So once again, guys, job well done, and we'll catch you the next time here on the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody, and have a great weekend.